Today I'm going to be working on making a bench harness. The first thing you're going to need to make this is a blue data connector for the computer. The wires you're going to need on this are pin 19, which is for your 12 volt switched. You're going to need pin 20, is the constant 12 volt. You're going to need pin 58, which is your serial data port. And you're going to need pin 1, which is a ground. Everything else can go away. You can see I've already stripped most of this out of here. To remove the blue caps on the top, you have to take them off to get the wires in and out. There's little clips on the side, so you just push in on that while you lift on the blue cover. Find it easier to do the outside first, then the inside, because the inside you can kind of use that screw to brace up against your screwdriver, whatever you're using to pry that out of there with, and it just makes it a little easier. Of course, it's not easier once the camera's rolling, right? It's real easy when the camera's not on. Alright, then you got your little pin outs. You can see I put the one stray one in here just to show how they come out. There's little clips right there that you can pry back on to push the wire backwards to pull it out. I'm assuming probably people are going to be buying these on eBay just to get an extra set of connectors. It's probably going to have the wires cut real short, so if you're just getting wires out, the easiest way is to just push them forward and pull them out. Then you can put your covers back on. You also have the gray cover or cap that goes over the wiring connections. To get this off, there's tabs on the sides, on the ends that you'll squeeze. There's also another tab towards the middle. Probably have to press on that with a screwdriver or something, or you can squeeze real hard. I'm not going to demonstrate how to take this off. I had a hard enough time getting those blue caps off on film. This is it's kind of annoying to get off, just to be honest. You're just going to have to squeeze. You're going to have to keep pulling and prying, and eventually you'll get it off. You're also going to need a power supply, 12 volts, amperage. They say you've got to have more than 1 amp. Get a good power supply. Get something that's a little higher rated than you might think you actually need. The one I'm going with is labeled at 12 volts, 3.5 amps. Resist the temptation to get the cheapest thing available that only has 1 amp and run yourself into a problem. You are going to need a OBD2 connector. Pin 16 is the power. Pins 4 and 5 are both grounds, and pin 2 your serial data. To add or remove wires from this, to get these pins out of here, you got little clips, and it kind of seems like the thing to do would be to press down on those to get it to release. It really doesn't work. You need to get underneath and pry up the outer housing over top of those pins to get those locking mechanisms out. You're going to need a couple switches. One for the main power, your constant power to turn the whole thing on, and then you're going to need switched power. Because like in a car, you have your battery that powers certain things all the time, and then you have other things that only are powered when the key is turned on. Same thing for the computer. I have an actual keyed switch completely by accident. I ordered another switch and they sent me this by mistake, and when I saw it I was like, okay, I can actually put that to use. It's kind of cool. My son said that I should send in to order a third version of that switch just to see if they send me something odd again that I could find something cool with, since it worked out so well on their first mistake. You're going to need some kind of communications device to attach to that OBD2 connector. What I got was the OBDX Pro VX, kind of a hot thing I guess now for people using the free software, and it has a USB or a Bluetooth connection. The USB will be nice because it travels a lot faster. When you are dealing with things where power fluctuations could be a problem, the faster you can get things done, the better. I'm also going to add a couple of small indicator lights for the constant power and the switched power, just little bit. If you're running short on your amperage, you probably don't want to add anything extra into the circuit. I like to use the baking tins for my little electrical projects. Made of metal, so you can kind of do a chassis ground, and just makes it convenient. Start with the grounds. I cut the wires for the number 4 and 5 pinouts on the OBD2 down to size, crimped them in a little connector there. I'm going to solder that in to make it better, and then we will be putting a bolt into the chassis, and we'll connect the rest of the grounds to the same bolt from the inside. Ran an extension wire onto that. That's going to go to the number 1 pin out on the blue connector, and I'll just cut those to size and solder those together. And so that'll be our external grounds here. And while we're talking about it, since we're looking at it, number 2 pin out, which is your serial data, is going to go to the serial data port on the blue connector, which is pin 58, which on my little thing here is the purple wire. Alright, so soldered up the ground. I also did the serial data cable, and then it's got some shrink tape to put over that. Should do that, and then we'll start hooking up on the inside. I'm going to solder an extension to the power cables for both the constant and the switched power. That through our little rubber grommet there into our chassis, and we'll be running those to the switches, the appropriate switches. So we're running our constant power from our blue connector, which in our case is this brown wire, and that is pin 20, and we're also hooking that into, tying it into pin 16 on our OBD2 for constant power. Running a jumper off of that we're going to send constant power to our keyed switch with, because of course we want to make sure we have our constant power turned on prior to being able to turn on our keyed power. And then we got a little light power tied into that also. We're going to solder that into I solder them all together and then put the blade connector on and solder that into place. Then our keyed power is going to be what's for us the yellow wire. That's going to pin 19 on our blue connector. We're also going to tie in our little light. The key power switch has little screw connectors, so we'll be using little connectors for that. Hook up. Next thing will be our power supply. Plan on just mounting it on the back. That's what the holes are for, just to put some bungee cord or some zip ties through. And we'll run the power through. The little rubber grommet there. Don't really need that little rubber grommet, but I had them handy. And why not? Alright, I've left quite a bit of extra here just because I may need to use this power source for something else later on in life. I've tested this, so I know that the side with the bars on it is my positive side. So we're going to hook that up. Again, that's going to the inlet side of our constant power switch. Kind of a lot going on that output side of that constant positive. Tighten that up a little bit. Give that a little more stability. Get it working. Alright, that should help. Take our 3 grounds. We have our main ground from the power supply, and we have our 2 grounds from our lights left over. As everything else we grounded from the back side to the chassis, and so we're going to hook these 3 together, and we're just going to hook those to the other side of that bolt going through the chassis, so all the grounds will be together. Doctored up with a little wire covering. A little bigger than what I need, but it's what I had handy. So, as usual, I use what I have handy. And we got our power hooked up. Just give it a quick test before we hook anything up. Alright, constant power on. Constant power and keyed power. Good to go. Turn the constant power off. It should also kill the keyed power, and it does. Alright. Good to go. I guess it's time to hook it up to a computer and see if it works for real. Alright, we've got our bench harness hooked up to our computer. We plugged in the dongle. Now we're going to run the cable to the USB port on the computer, and we're going to pull up PC Hammer and make sure that we're able to read this computer. It found the OBD2 Pro dongle, and so now we'll turn on some power to the computer and see if it reads it. So read
properties, and there we go. It tells us our device successfully initialized and ready. Tells us our VIN number, hardware type, calibration ID, etc., etc. Our little bench harness is working and functional.